Dude, you want to stir the pot? I'll stir the pot.
That's your move, dude. You stir the pot every day. Chris is all, stir the pot? Yeah, let's do that.
You want to talk trash? I'll talk a little trash.
Oh, you feel dangerous but also safe? Maybe just mostly dangerous? Okay. What do you got? You have some stuff?
I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on. Hang on. Let me see.
Oh, that's
we got
okay.
nothing.
Sometimes you have a nice Monday.
Sometimes
and it's the last Monday in June.
This is all getting edited out,
And
dude.
yeah, right, dude. This is exactly what the people want to hear about.
I don't know if
They're
they
like,
do, but-
if you look out the window right now, what is it for me? Something super important?
I'll tell you what I see out the window. I see Java Bob's Roasting Company. If I sneak over, I can see 11th Hour Roasting Company.
Somebody wants to talk to me
I
about...
can see Verve Roasting Company.
Yes, you can.
There's a vortex of coffee roasters in this 3-block
So many
radius that
roasting
we're
co's.
in. A lot of roasting co's. Roasting co's all over the place.
And we're in a great area for it, you know?
Let's see here.
Boy, oh boy, if you wanted to buy coffee from Mexico, now's your moment. The Jaguar's on our menu. It's popping. You don't have to edit this out because it's the truth.
I understand what's going on here.
Which is now the Best Friends blend. If we were stream of consciousness this, the Best Friends blend is a promise. 25% minimum coffee from the Best Friends producers that are in the club. You want to be in a club? Be in a club with somebody who buys good coffee. Go for Mexico, Jaguar, or go for Best Friends blend, which currently sits at a very high percentage of Wilson Morales' delicious Pacus. From the El Cedral region.
Slightly larger
Sitting
bean.
on a soup bowl side of a canyon right next to Ben Hameen Paz's farm, where some of his C.O.E. coffee is not grown, but just grown.
Take me there.
I'll take you there. Once I saw a python there. The end.
Did you cup this the COE?
I did cup. Well,
samples?
one of the tables. We have more, and I don't know if Dulce's run a second, but yes, I cupped the first COE samples.
We're a member now.
Yeah, we are.
Card carrying
Members
member.
only.
Cup of excellence.
Dulce's got a badge number. She can liaison people to purchasing the coffee. I don't even understand how that works. I could ask her more, honestly, but she gets to sit on the. She's got a number if people are interested in purchasing coffee.
Say what? Wait, tell me
Us
more.
being members, she has a number. So
Purchase coffee from
the COE. So like for instance, which I'm going to speak for him because he said he's going to do it. So now you really have to do it. But Frank Law from Be Bright he's gonna jump in and should the bidding be successful on the coffee, he's interested in getting 3 bags of Nellens coffee and jumping in the Best Friends Club and selling it, which is awesome.
Right.
But when Dulce says she's all, hey, here's my badge number, and maybe it's that they're looking to book the coffee, but anybody can book in the auction. So that's why I'm like, there's no reason for her to have given that number unless there was some, maybe she's got all the information now that she has the badge number and she can give people all the info on all the coffees, and maybe that's what it means. You know what I'm saying? We should have her on and ask.
Yeah.
I actually have no idea.
This
This is a part of there's so much of that side of the industry that I only know a small amount, and it's only focused mostly from being in Honduras with Ben Hameen and learning how they specifically do it, but not COE, which is its own thing.
Yeah. So
that's Cup of Excellence for anybody who doesn't know coffee.
So Cup of Excellence, how do you explain Cup of Excellence? Cup of Excellence is an auction system.
It's in the
Countries
name.
run them independently. It's the most excellent cup. Bill and Ted's Excellent Cup Adventure.
You're vying for excellence.
You're vying for excellence. Producers submit their coffee to COE. The coffees are cupped and scored and rated. So you'll have, however many lots, 15, 20 lots. They'll
by
score
certified
them.
judges.
By certified judges, rated 1 to whatever. You can pay to be a part of the auction. If you pay to be a part of the auction, you get samples.
Yep.
We got samples, so we sample roast all those samples. And then it's a traditional auction, so you can bid on whatever coffees you like.
Right.
And the cool part about it is obviously like the number one coffee usually fetches the most money, but you can kind of bid on whatever you want. So we're interested in one of them that's actually not number one.
Right. It's also one of our producers.
Nellens Coffee.
First year doing a natural as well, specifically in specialty grade, right? So he'd do naturals before, but it was always the second. It's always the coffee he'd keep for himself. So him deciding to put out a natural and then in his first year doing so, getting 5th place in the Cup of Excellence is pretty spectacular.
Pretty awesome. So the thing that we're trying to figure out is if you're bidding on a lot, you have to buy the whole lot of coffee.
Yeah.
So however big the lot is,
Yeah.
you got to commit to buying all that. So we're probably going to try to go into some sort of buying group with somebody else who wants a couple bags.
Yeah.
We take a couple bags because we won't be able to take the whole lot in its entirety.
Exactly.
Do you know how big it is?
It's either 10 bags or 7 bags. I think it's 7 bags.
Okay. We probably want a couple
worth. We're gonna get, I believe, up to 4, and Frank is picking up the other 3.
Oh, cool.
And so again, if we bid it and get it, but if somebody outbids us, that's also a win too, because the whole point is not for us specifically to only get the best coffees, which that'd be great. The point is that the producers make the most money and the coffee gets sold. So if somebody wants to outbid what we can afford, that's great. Like Nellen's not going to take that personally. And when Ben Hameen jumped in, not to say that we'd be the only ones who would be able to get his coffee, but when Ben Hameen got first place, at the time we were receiving some of his geisha, which is delicious. But we're like, dog, we're not going to buy any of that because you can make a lot of money. He's all, no. And he would always give us a deal, and whatever. I would have considered a deal, considering the amount that he got for that coffee and what we were paying for it at the time. He's just such a nice dude. And so we were like, no, man, sell all that coffee, make as much as you can off of it. And that's the same perspective we have here. It's not necessarily about, I got to taste the coffee and I'm glad we have it when we get it because I love to drink it, but it's not about that specifically for me. It's about the, the holistic win for everybody and the recognition for them.
It's a great platform for people to show off their best coffees.
Yeah.
And get paid for them.
Totally.
Well,
I kind of think what it means now, almost for sure, and I'm just like intuitively going down this rabbit hole of what it means for Dulce. Most likely it means that she gets to she can cup and actually be on the panel of who scores the coffees next year.
Really?
And I think she's behind the scenes, right? Because why else would you be in it as a company? What would be the incentive if we still would have to bid on it like everybody else, right? So you would maybe to get pre-shipped samples, but I think it's the ability for us to liaison information, and then I think she gets to cup all the coffees next year.
But you would have to have some sort of certification for cupping. I know she's a Q grader, but it's got to be different than that as well.
Oh, we should ask her. Actually, I don't know. Because I know somebody out there is like, duh, you guys, it's like this, and you should know. And I'm like, well, I've never needed to know, so.
Yeah, I'm not a green buyer, and I don't pretend to be.
Yeah, and you try to think about it. It's like, why would you sign up for it? We got all those samples. We know who is who. We're not cupping them blind. From then on out, maybe if you sign up, maybe you get to have some pre-ship samples of everything and you get to understand the coffee so you can bid on them first, and know exactly which ones you want the most.
Maybe you get access to a secret online community of super tasters that you can talk to coffee about.
Yeah, I'm like, that could be it.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
That's got to be, that's the other part. You must be able to get to pre-ship sample all of them if you're in the club so that you can choose, otherwise.
Like everybody who's bidding to be a part of the auction is going to get samples. That's the only way you'd be able to cup and taste.
Did we used to get the samples for when we were, I don't remember because I wasn't in green, but did Verve get them or did we sometimes just purchase them on the fly because they were available?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
I don't remember too many C.O.E. coffees from that era, honestly.
Not very many. I remember some of the Guats, right? Those were always in Hairto. C.O.Es were a thing. Anyway, but maybe it was just big importing companies would buy some of them and we'd buy them from them. That might have been how it worked back then.
A little secondhand C.O.E.
Maybe. That would make sense too at the time. Anyway, cool. Good stuff. I did get to taste them all. They're very good coffees. It's really cool that I'd say 70% of what was on the table, and I think in general, all come from the Santa Barbara mountain range area, which is a big deal. There's a few other parts of Honduras that they came from as well that I tasted coffees, one of which was great from a place I can't remember offhand right now that I don't really hear people talk about. Arturo was on the table, which I love that gentleman, and Ben Hameen, I think, got third.
Was that his C.O.E. geisha that was on the table with Ben's coffee last week? Yeah, that coffee was good.
It was fantastic. So this year they have 3 categories too. They have the unique varieties of coffee, so that'd be SL28s and things of the sort. They have regular preparation coffee, washed, native varieties. And then they had the unique, the anaerobics and the crazy versions. And all 3 of those were categories. So that was also interesting because you could submit and kind of be judged, in a category that makes sense, which I would
cool way to do
think
it.
Would be awesome if I wish barista competitions would do that too, instead of it being everybody has to find a way to have an anaerobic wild geisha to win. And it's maybe you could split this up too so that people could sell just amazing coffee who was roasted really well and not roasted really well, but also amped.
I mean, I think that's the nature of things, is to spiral out of control or to like keep going to
Blood doping up this coffee.
a ridiculous level. You know what I mean? Don't you?
No, I mean, it is for sure. Unless you put some parameters on it like that and then try to categorize.
Unless you box it in, like people have talked about, like everybody's using the same coffee.
Sure.
Which would be, I got mixed emotions on it.
It'd be less exciting and more interesting for people who understand.
Right.
Yeah.
It would definitely allow you to flex some different barista muscles.
Yeah, that would be more challenging.
Kind of what is the goal of the competition becomes the conversation at that point.
Easier to judge, I bet, though.
I'm sure easier to judge.
And probably like
everybody
a more
has
honest
the same
competition.
Coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can see like
who actually made the coffee
who's extracting
best,
it better,
who roasted it best and extracted it best.
Right. Who is
That'd be fun.
Yeah. If everybody had the same green and then there's some way to verify that coffee was that coffee, because you're going to get the same shit that you get in any other sport where people are just going to try to cheat the system no matter what. Where they're, I got the provided green, and then I'm going to sprinkle 25% of this little thing in and hope nobody notices, and then they're going to have to check me for performance enhancing drugs.
How sick would it be if that was, I know we've done this in the past, but if that was kind of how the performance enhancing drugs is exactly how it works. Everybody gets performance enhancing drugs, and you're just like, no, you have a round of delicious regular, like even if it was a blend, like everybody got the same thing, and whoever moved on from that, then it's like they provided a different, maybe more like point wise elevated version of it, and then you jump to like whatever it might be. You jump from like an 85 to an 87, and then like you get to the finals and it's a 90 point coffee, but everybody gets it, and so it's like, and they're different. Then you can play with all those. Maybe the middle one's the crazy anaerobic coffee.
You got to dial in per the round.
Yeah.
Maybe even you don't even get to roast it. Yeah,
right.
It gets already roasted.
And you're already paying to be in it anyway. And so many people have to figure out their own coffee and all that stuff. It's like just lump in the cost of whatever it would be for whoever to source the SCA to source the green coffee, and just, how much it's going to be. Dish out everybody enough to be able to roast and play with it. Like they're going to pay for a quarter bag of coffee per round, and it's just like is what it is, and the price point's lower, but if you're trying to win, you're going to invest, so it's a little higher in the second round, a little higher in the finals championship, and you make it like a ramp up.
Yeah, you would just pay more overall to be in the competition,
right, but
and get
less
things.
Overhead at home trying to find the crazy amount of coffee.
Right, maybe it's a wash,
right,
because you're not buying specific coffee. And
it's a wash for someone for sure. It's not coming out cheaper for some of those companies who are buying super expensive stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, because
that'd be fun.
That's more interesting to me. To see who's got the barista chops to be able to do that, especially if it's a coffee that you've never seen. Then it becomes tricky for the signature drink and stuff. But I guess if you know ahead of time, it's not really.
Yeah, as long as they give you enough time.
Yeah.
But then aside from the signature drink, which, again, I think the argument would be like, you guys got to be creative and good enough to come up with one anyway. So whoever's the best at that's going to be the best at that, regardless of the amount of time. Unless they don't have whatever. I can't give all the variables of why you may or may not be able to do that well, but everybody have the same amount of time. So then, on the flip side of that, it's just everybody's concept, unless it's specifically based around processing, works, every place. They just have to apply it to the appropriate coffee and learn about it.
This is aside from that, but have you been following the whole C.O.E, SCA?
I followed it a little bit.
Merger thing.
Yeah, they were talking about it a lot at Houston.
They were talking about it a lot, and one of the things I couldn't figure out is why anybody cared.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a beat on that.
No, I think, the big reason they cared is because Q doesn't matter anymore. It's not recognized. So you're going to have to retest to get certified under whatever the new Q is.
Weiser got something? Bring it in here, dude.
He's just wondering. So the standards changed.
Come on,
with the new.
Get a microphone.
And people didn't like that.
He's got something to say. Get over here. He's looking at me like a deer in headlights. There's a mic down there. It's got the cable on it already.
Shout out to microphone. So that was the big thing. People are like, I don't want to have to retest for my Q. I don't want to have to.
All right, you're on, dude.
So I just like the question around this is, what if everyone just doesn't
do it?
So the big wigs, the SCA, and who is the other board?
C.O.E.
They came and said, we do this now. And then just what if everyone doesn't?
It's a good question.
There's an industry that already follows one thing.
Right.
And it's just a matter of standards. If you look at like the tech world, how many fucking standards are there around stupid cables? And it's just like everyone invents their own standard every day. It's like, so why can't
Right.
the coffee industry just go, oh, you're actually doing this? Well, we're not going to do that, and we're just going to follow this thing that everybody already knows.
Well, that's where my curiosity comes from, because I'm not super plugged into that world because I've never thought about getting my Q. It's never been a big part of my job. But I've been tasting coffee for, over 2 decades, and that is a big part of my job. But what I was trying to figure out is people seemed genuinely just super bent out of shape about it. Like, they were pissed. And people had really big opinions, and it was this big talking point, and I couldn't figure out why, because when I was young in the industry, I saw those quote unquote industry standards as things to strive for. And maybe we need some sort of commonality and talking points so we can have conversations. But the further I go along in my career, the more I see, okay, at Cat and Cloud, my ecosystem is built around our own stylistic interpretations of what coffee should be and what our guests want and our wholesale partners want. And none of those other things, like, they could dissolve all of those standards, and I don't think it would change anything we do here at all.
Well, for us. But there's people who are too young that will potentially never have those milestones. Like, I think you could go and understand and or know, whether you can taste it perfectly or not, all the things that almost literally, if not literally, everything they talk about in the queue, because of our tenure and time and learning all these things over. So if that stuff's never taught anymore, there's a lot of tools people might not have to even articulate with any understanding of the intention behind a style like we have, whether it's a queue or anything else. You know what I'm saying? Like, we learn things over time. The world doesn't follow our trajectory at all by way of diving in and figuring it out for themselves. So I guess the fun part could be, if there's nothing, you need to figure it out for yourself, and it separates, the curds from the whey a little bit.
But I think
which one's which, dude? Which one's which? You know what I'm saying? Like, we definitely learned all that, and that's why we have our own ecosystem, is our ability to choose and know the difference of what we're doing.
So another reason why I think about this is, if you take cupping, like, what's the reason why, cupping is done across the world, across the coffee industry? It's like, because it's the same everywhere, right?
And you mean the
it's
process of
cupping?
Right. Yeah, correct.
Like, if you do a cupping here, you can also go to Honduras and
participate in a cupping.
Participate in a cupping.
Yeah.
And so if you are grading coffee here, like, you should be grading coffee the same way everywhere else. And there's an industry of people who have been doing it one way, and that way works. Granted, does that mean it's perfect? Maybe not.
Well,
I don't
we
know
actually
enough.
aren't, though. That's kind of the point, I think. Well, I mean, thinking of cupping, it's like, yeah, but then you didn't mention, like, how much coffee we're putting in there. And so to standardize the amount, it's like, yeah, you could do a cupping, but somebody could put 16 grams or 4, and then the coffee tastes different. So not to like knock it, but that's like one of those things that is that standard that, sure, now it could be handled by a way of a tweet or an X or a one post in the world.
Yeah, I think just the biggest thing for me for this whole topic is a matter of, people are getting really bent out of shape because it's something that they have done, and it is more or less a standard across the board that they can use. Like, think of Dulce creating these relationships with their green buyers, talking about a score, a standard that people are using. And then for somebody who is, I don't know their connection to the coffee industry, but I know their connection to Dulce, and, is probably non-existent, and they're just coming in and going like, hey, what you're certified in doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah,
and that's
right.
like, who are you to say that?
But what will you, but let's say Dulce was never Q certified.
Yeah.
Does that make her any less of a green buyer or less able to do her job? Absolutely not.
No.
Like, does it really even change the coffee she's buying or how she communicates with the importer? Not really.
Yeah, what you're saying is the way it'll affect us is non.
But then
I'm saying not major.
Correct. But I'm also saying the way it'll affect everybody else is kind of the same, because we're not participating in specialty coffee to be a part of the industry of specialty coffee. Roasters are participating in specialty coffee to serve guests.
And that's where I'm saying, that's where I'm saying people are getting bent out of shape because somebody is saying, oh, you have to do it this way now. But we, as the people who are actually doing the industry work, can say, No,
We
we're
could
not going to
literally-
listen to you.
Right. We could literally change nothing
Yeah.
and life will go on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was that was just my
I
interesting
think I
takeaway.
think you're right, but I actually think a bunch of people are doing it to be in the industry of specialty coffee. Like they're looking for a community where we have made our own, but I think they are. So I think in that regard, you want to feel like you're a part of something and have some common language and an ability to connect. And so you're kind of looking for that, and it's a pathway to it. Whether it's necessary or not, it's kind of moot in that point, but I think that would be the reason people jump in. I think younger companies are trying to be in specialty coffee.
Yeah, but when you jump into something, are you going to listen to the suits who are making the deals, or are you going to listen to the people like Dulce who are out there doing it?
Well, it depends on who's participating in specialty coffee industry. So if we're not actually out there sharing our shit, then we're not in the industry, and therefore we're not listened to, right? So
Well, no,
there's
what
people
I'm
who
saying
are,
is like there's the difference between like we've always participated in the industry,
Yeah.
but we also have a job to do, and
sure.
I think that's very, it's someone's not going to be a cupper just to be a cupper who doesn't have someone to serve, right?
Absolutely.
You're either an exporter or importer, or you own a roasting company like ours, and the
seems
ultimate
to be
goal is
true.
to. I
I'm
mean,
thinking
like,
about
why
trying to
would you be buying coffees if not to curate a menu and like serve them to
buying
guests,
for sure.
right?
I'm just thinking cupper. I was trying to be like, well, like Ben Kaminsky, he cupped to win, right? And then no coffee, but he was never a buyer.
That sounds like a book.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, kind of.
I know where you're going.
He was like
I
a
didn't
cup
understand.
tasters champion, but he
Right.
also worked for companies that bought coffee, and
No,
I'm sure
totally.
he had input
1,000%.
on like
I
the
didn't know where
coffees
you're
they were
going.
buying,
Yeah.
right?
You're
So-
going towards why would you do that unless you're looking to buy coffee, which is kind of true, unless you're just a coffee nerd too. But
yeah, I guess.
but your depth there is just personal passion, not necessarily always professionalism. You think about the home enthusiast will still cup coffee and maybe share them, but it's a different thing.
yeah. Like, yes.
There are a
I
lot of
haven't-
those though.
Yeah, I haven't thought about the home.
The home enthusiasts
home
are real. Yeah, like there's
home baristas. No, there's home cuppers.
there's home. They're like they're doing it in cities. People like get coffee tastings together, and like people who don't know a lot about coffee will just buy a bunch of coffees from people's stuff and like, come on over, we'll have a coffee tasting. And the way they do pour overs or cuppings, and it's like. That still negates the whole concept of the queue, so I'm throwing a wrench in that a little. But
Do we know what they were trying to, I'm going to use air quotes here, but fix when they changed the system over? Like, what were they trying to solve?
I think they were just evolving it and making it a little more complex in a way that I think is more articulate. It's almost like when they've reworked the flavor wheel over and over again, right?
yeah.
As we learn more, so shall we integrate more. I think it's just like an attempt at pursue better, and I think the challenge is that people could upgrade their queue. Now they have to restart from the beginning, and it's just like all this stuff I've done for 20 years, and some people worked on building for 20 years is not going to be recognized in this thing. And the initial reaction always for any change is hate at first or discomfort or whatever. And the homegirl Miranda, she's like, what if we just waited and saw what happened and just gave it a beat and saw like how the dust settles and don't assume any which way. Could be fine, could be nothing, could be something, could be good in different ways that we didn't expect, could be a frustrating thing in different ways. But like what happens is we hear this thing and then everybody's like, jumping to conclusions. And it's a jump to conclusions, Matt.
It's a bunch of conclusions on it.
We know that it doesn't sell.
So do you think do you think the kind of outrage was more of a knee jerk reaction?
Oh, I
Has to
don't.
be.
No, my thing is I don't know because I don't understand why people were so upset. And that this is like a genuine curiosity. It seemed like such a big thing, and from the place that I sit, my gut feeling is this really doesn't matter at all in real life.
Yeah.
Unless you work for one of those organizations, unless you're there. And I think some people were bent out of shape a little bit because, some people have a job doing a thing and they might not have that job anymore because that thing doesn't exist.
Well, there's a matter of speaking the language. Like if you are in the industry, and I remember that when I went to Honduras and I was sitting around while you all were cupping and just hearing Ben Hameen go through his notes and then give a score. And then everybody was going through their notes and giving a score. To me, everyone was speaking a different language. And my limited knowledge of what happened here is it seems like somebody from the top down said, okay, that language that you all speak now just doesn't matter. So you all have to now learn this other language that some of you have and the language that you're forgetting, some of you have spent 20 years of your life speaking, and now you're all it doesn't matter. So that to me was like my experience with this announcement.
That makes sense. I need to look into it more. I am yes, and I understand why it is helpful to have some sort of industry standard so we can talk to each other and have the things mean the same things.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're doing that anyway. Even you know what I mean? It's like
at the end of the day, it's subjective because it's taste.
Well, and it's again, I'm looking at it from a perspective of someone who's curating a menu for people.
Yeah.
So it's we're buying to fill menu slots and create this dynamic and interesting menu, and points aren't the biggest part of that.
Yeah, the score doesn't matter if you taste a cup and you go, oh, that's going to fit perfectly on my menu.
Right.
If you didn't know the score, but you just knew how it tasted and you knew what you were looking for, that's, I think, what you're speaking to when you say it's not going to really affect us because we are doing it based off of what we are looking to create. And we're not looking to necessarily create things that have a specific score.
And then the points are maybe important because they're, dictating price in some sense.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
And the ability to communicate across the platforms for agreement on price.
You're saying like this is a 92
exactly.
and it commands X amount of money.
Right. That's a thing. I was looking as Trish Rothgeb, who
didn't they just start a new podcast?
Well, yes, and that's rad. Probably check it out, her and Jay, and maybe more. But no, she's been on Q forever, as well as coined the term third wave for coffee. But she did an article with Sprudge I was trying to find specifically around this and the transition.
Yeah, it's really funny watching both of you. You're pulling up something on Instagram. Chris is pulling something up on Spotify.
Well, trying to get into the back of, to the thing. I just don't remember how long ago it was, but I figured I was trying to pull up something quickly, just kind of like skim it and see what some of her points were.
Put it into ChatGPT.
I don't do that, dude.
So
I don't ChatGPT anything.
I know.
Even before the military bought it. I want to keep my mind sharp. I like to figure it out. It makes me feel good.
Thanks, Jeff Probst.
Exactly.
What were you pulling
I
that
like
up?
to figure it out.
What were you pulling that up for,
He's
Chris?
surfing the internet.
I'm surfing the net.
I listened to a podcast that I'd never listened to before. I just found it. It's called the Actually Good Coffee Podcast.
Actually good, dude.
Way to go, y'all.
Anything about the people on it, but
They're probably actually
there's
good.
an episode about the SCA C.O.E. merger, and he talks to someone who has worked with both parties, like certified trainer for both, and I don't know, it was just an interesting listen. I didn't get a ton, and I think some of the stuff that they were talking about was the back end practices and training that you need to do to be a part of each individual organization was wildly different. That's I don't want to mix them up, so I won't claim, but one of the parties is a little more loosey-goosey with training and certification and how they, just certify trainers to certify other people, and the other one had a little more structure. Yeah. So that was a point of contention.
Interesting. We'll put that in the show notes.
I'll put that in the show notes.
Put that in the show notes.
I would. People
that
are
in the
liking.
show
Yeah,
notes
people
and
are
save
also
it.
liking Jay and Trish's podcast.
I think I would be interested to see how the dust settles on this. I know it's been a couple months since the announcement, so maybe it is starting to settle. But as like an outside observer that doesn't speak the language either way, I can see how it would affect people who do. And it's interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
guess
over here eating my popcorn in the corner.
If you're a green buyer, importer, or exporter, and you have to communicate those things, I could see it affecting you much more than it affects people who are running businesses like ours.
So here's a thing.
Let's go.
Here's the thing.
Let's
This
go.
is what I'm deducing.
Deduce.
Although if I'm butchering this, forgive me because
Let's go, Sherlock
but
Holmes.
it's like the Q grader certification is now moved under CQI. So
you're less
so basically
than.
everybody who had a Q, it's gone. You have to retest and do it all over again under CQI to get your Q back. So basically, and it's been elevated, and Trish works for CQI, and she's been with Q. So in that role, she's the evaluation specialist, and she focuses on the Q grader program and its content.
Yeah,
and the educators who teach it. So there's a whole slew of a new system in general and a new way of Q grading that probably includes a lot of how we did it already, but I think has evolved, now lives under CQI. Now you can only receive the certification through CQI,
Right.
etc.
Talk
So
about ripping the Band-Aid off.
Well, so maybe
that's why everybody's mad.
Then
Is
maybe
that,
that's it. That's it.
You took my thing.
You've taken away my status.
Exactly.
That's the biggest. It's an emotional blow and not really a practical one.
And so
where it's like the people who were ripping the Band-Aid off, who were taking away the thing, that's what my original point was. It's like we give them the power by
opting into
the system.
Yeah.
well, and it does. I mean, yeah, it costs money. It's time. It's not simple. But it's like, again, if you take a beat, maybe you take a beat when you hear that, which I already got loud about, and maybe you ask some questions that I would personally ask, which I don't know. It's like, if I had a queue, do I need to go through the whole thing A to Z? If I had a queue, do I get a discount because I spent all this? Probably no, because it's a new company. But whatever. Is there? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, do I have to start all the way over? Is this going to be super, super challenging?
And then
and again, there's the positive argument with that. Like, maybe it is challenging, and maybe it actually elevates, if it matters, how good you are. Because you do want to actually. I would like to celebrate people that I know are actually good at this stuff, and not what we kind of do in our industry now, which is celebrate the people who are the best online. So, like whoever you like the most in the internet is not necessarily the best person to give you information on how this all works and like to be really good at this industry. They might not give you the best advice. They might just be entertaining.
Well, and I think, you have to ask yourself the question of if you're a cute grader and your queue gets taken away, so to speak, and now you got to redo it, you got to ask, what value am I getting out of this? What does this mean for me? And if it's really important to you and it's going to help you in your work, then you do it because you see the value in it and you don't whine about it. Mm-hmm. Or you say there's actually no value here and I don't need to retest because it actually doesn't affect the way I do things day in and day out. And I've heard both sides. Like, I've heard people say, I took the queue, it was super challenging, I'm really proud that I got it. I've also had friends who said, I took the queue, it's a fucking joke, and I can't believe this thing even exists. So, and I don't know what's true because I've never taken it or cared to. But I mean, it's not uncommon that within any particular industry, you have to do things to keep yourself sharp. So my mom, for example, she's retired, but she's a lifelong nurse and still has her nursing license. And in order to keep her nursing license, she's got to do some sort of continuing education every year. That's always changing to get essentially recertified in something that she's done for longer than I've been alive.
Sure.
And she does it voluntarily because she's like, I like having my nursing license. Again, it's a part of, she doesn't need it functionally, but it's kind of a part of her identity in some sense. So she's like, I'm going to continue to do this. So I'm going to take the classes, do the tests, re-up my certification. And she's not pissed about it. Like, I've been a nurse for 40 years. They're taking this thing away. It's like, no, like, this is fun, right? This is fun. I get to recertify my queue. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
If you need it.
If you need it.
If you don't, you don't.
I'd say the ones who I'd be the most empathetic towards are the ones who got it right before they changed. If there was no heads up that this is going to happen and you spent all that time and money, and it's just like, I literally kind of like Dulce, honestly.
Dulce got it
just finished
year and a half ago.
Yeah, I was going to say like 8 months to a year. So yeah, but like, you're probably right. And that would maybe feel the most frustrating is like, somebody for sure got their certification
like a day before.
Exactly. And then went to SCA and found out it's like about to be stripped and then spent all that time and money. And that would feel a little, I'd be pissed because that costs money and that'd be like, refund my shit. But then you have the company who needed the money is essentially losing the ability. Then it's like, that sucks too. Because the company's like, I need this money.
That's where you would hope for some sort of transparency, and
I don't think there was though.
And just the kind of lead up to where it's people are saying, okay, cool. Like if people are applying for a queue and then you get a response, it's like, hey, we're stopping all queue certifications for 3 months or 6 months. Just hang tight. There's some things coming.
Yeah,
like
we'll
figure this out.
Yeah, and they maybe did that. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm just that's
what you would hope for.
That's a speculative. Like putting myself in the shoes of people, I would for sure be pissed if that was the case. Because if you decided to go through it, you're excited, and if you just got it done and you're excited, then they're like, do it again, and it's going to be different. You're like, what? Because some people, it's if you haven't practiced coffee for a long time and you don't have a setup like Dulce does, because she said it was challenging but not super, super hard. There's a lot of people who don't have the ability to taste coffee as much and as frequently as she does who are interested in it, and it's actually really hard for them. And so if you're one of those and that happened, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, but if you work for a coffee company, you have access to coffee all day long. Like
I don't know. I'm just
you
saying,
could cup every day, right? It's
I think you could cup every day.
I mean, you could definitely cup every day. What would stop you from cupping every day if
Your
you had
company.
Your company can't stop you from cupping every day.
Well, if you don't have the coffee available, you have to buy it yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like some companies aren't awesome. You're not going to get the ability to actually like have access to the stuff on your own without buying it yourself. Some companies don't offer what we
think
offer.
so?
Hell yeah.
I have never heard of a place that's like has a really interested employee that's like you can't have 20 grams. Or let's say like if you're cupping one particular coffee, you work for a roasting company or a retail spot.
Well, but think about Q graders are doing a bunch. Like if you're trying to queue, you're cupping tables.
You're cupping tables, but you can cup.
And if you're just a barista, I don't think companies are just a quote unquote. You know, like a lot of companies aren't that tight. They're not going to be like, no, like we're going to need you to be in the cafe. I feel like.
Oh no! You would come after hours. I'm not saying. I'm not saying that companies will pay you to do. Like she gets to roll it in as part of her job.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
Sure,
and just a really cool job perk in some way.
Yeah,
and I think most people would do it the same way that they would train for a barista competition, where it's like I don't think most companies are paying, some are, but I don't think most are paying for you to train. Like I never got paid to train for competition, but I willingly went after hours.
And you were trusted to be in the space by yourself, use all the equipment and the coffee at your accord. That's what I'm saying. I don't actually think companies are like that.
If you are interested enough to want to get your queue, like if I'm a boss of a shop and I've got an employee who's really gunning to get the queue, no brainer for me to say, I have like a little bit of coffee, come cup every day. Like there's only upside for me.
No, I mean, I agree. I just don't. I actually think more companies are probably less helpful at allowing people to progress like that than
you think.
I would like. I do think that. That's my hot take. I think that's true. I think that's why people are when they find a good one, they're super pumped on it. But I don't know. We'll never know unless we go check out some other companies.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, I trust my team enough to do it, but TBD. I think that would be challenging. Anyways, what do you guys want to talk about next? Or we have to call. We have a call with Charles in 2 minutes.
Cool.
Yeah, go get your queue, or don't.
It's really funny when you.
Is it even still called the queue?
Yeah, according to what I just saw.
Plus. It's a new streaming service.
You can sign up for free, get 3 months on the house.
Cute coffee cupper.
Early access to Weiser's new show. You were going to make a point. Go ahead.
Yeah, make a point.
I was just you were talking about it won't affect what we do day to day, and it was just funny. I remember when I tried to take a certification test for like Final Cut. This was probably 20
from Larry Jordan.
Yeah. This is probably like 2013. I went to another convention where they were having a bunch of classes and I was taking the certification course in it. And like I knew everything, even to the point where it's like during the course when the presenter was trying to like show something off, I was like yelling out like, oh, the keyboard shortcut for that is this. Like, oh, it's in this menu. Like I knew what I was talking about. Came to take the test. I got an 85% on the test.
Okay.
Passing was above 85. So it was 86 plus.
Okay, so you were
I didn't
out.
get the certification, but I still knew what the fuck I was doing.
I mean,
so it's just like the certification at some point, it's like, it depends on what you want.
Right. It's do you need it to do your work, and do you need it to feel good about who you are?
Yeah.
And that's been again, I don't have firsthand experience with the queue, but I was on the executive council of the Barista Guild when we were setting up the certifications for baristas. And there was always the dream that if you were a certified barista of a certain level, that it would be something that you could put on your resume, and coffee shops would say, oh, cool, I'm just going to slot you in, you're certified level 3. But it just doesn't actually work like that in practicality. Most people don't hire like that anyway, because they're starting to figure out that you need to hire for cultural fit first, and you can do training internally, because even if you have some sort of common industry language, there's going to be so many quirks about how you need to train for your individual location that you're kind of just, the certification is just kind of just saying like, yeah, I can handle a portafilter and I have some basic baseline skills, and those are the easy lifts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I knew people who were level 2 certified who were just, kind of mediocre baristas. And I'm not saying that to hate.
No.
It just is what it is.
Yeah,
Like,
the certification doesn't mean that you're a good company fit.
in the same way that you're still able to edit video like a boss,
Yeah.
even though you didn't pass the class.
I walked away feeling a little defeated, but then one large venti Starbucks from the show floor later, and I was feeling like, oh wait, I got this. I still know what I'm talking about.
Right, and if you're in an industry that really recognizes that, it like if in our industry we were able to go down that path where having a level 3 barista certification actually did mean something, and all of these companies opted into that meaning something, then it might be important to get it. And the Q definitely seems to be more important to the green coffee side of things than barista certification ever was for the guest facing side of things. So I can get where that's it feels more weighty than that, but it's, do you need it to do your job? Do you need it to feel good about yourself? Is it helping you communicate with people? These are all questions that you have to ask yourself. And for some people the answer is going to be yes, and for some people it's going to be like, nah, I don't care. And then I don't know. As I get older, I'm just like, yeah, things are going to change, and we got to figure out how to roll with it. And if we're just going to throw a fit about it, like, cool, you can be mad for a day.
I'd be really interested to see what would have happened if they this year announced, hey, here's what we're planning. And they got like community feedback.
Just communicate it a little bit more. Yeah.
Because I still think it's true. I want to know what are the pros for the change of this system? Like, what are they trying to solve? What are they trying to fix? Because there's no reason to do something unless if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
unless there's money involved, then people are going to do crazy things.
Funding.
Show me the money.
Who's been funded and who has
You know what
not?
I'm fixing? My pockets, they're a little bit light. I'm going to fix that.
Mark, did you ride your bike today? Yeah, you did.
Thanks for
That's why you
listening,
got your-
everybody. I hope you have a great week.
Ha ha!
What's your Q score? Hey everyone, that's the podcast for the week. Thanks so much for listening. If you heard something that inspired you, or if you heard something that gave you more questions and answers, send us an email to podcast@catandcloud.com. And if you're looking to know more about us, then head to our website at catandcloud.com, where you can find everything we have to offer. A great place to start would be The Answer, our house coffee that's right for any occasion. Or the Best Friends Blend, a coffee that tastes just as good as the good it does by donating $1 per pound back to our partnering producers. Also, if you're feeling extra friendly, connect with us in the usual places, like YouTube, Instagram, pretty much everywhere that's hip. All right, that's it. Thanks for being awesome, everyone, and we'll be back next week.